4 years ago, I stood in front of a small house in the suburbs of Austin, Texas, holding a set of keys in my hand. My wife Diana was beside me, her eyes sparkling with excitement. We had just signed the papers. This was our home, our future. I remember thinking that this was where we would raise our children, where we would grow old together. I never imagined that one night I would be lying face down on that same front lawn, handcuffs cutting into my wrists, while my wife stood over me, laughing and filming everything for TikTok. Before I share what happened, let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. If this story resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Have you ever been betrayed by the one person you trusted most? Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you changed my life forever. My name is Anderson. I am 34 years old, and I work as a software engineer at a tech company here in Austin. I met Diana 6 years ago at a coffee shop downtown. She was sitting at a corner table, typing furiously on her laptop, her brow furrowed in concentration. I thought she was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. When I finally gathered the courage to approach her, she looked up at me with this bright, infectious smile that made my heart skip a beat. Diana worked in marketing back then. She was ambitious, funny, and full of energy. Our first date lasted 5 hours because neither of us wanted it to end. We talked about everything from our dreams and fears to our favorite childhood memories. She told me she wanted to build something meaningful with her life. I told her I wanted to find someone who would be my partner in everything. We both thought we had found what we were looking for. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. It was nothing fancy, just a quiet dinner at the same coffee shop where we met. She said yes before I even finished asking the question. 3 months later, we were married in a small ceremony with close friends and family. My parents adored her. My younger sister, Rachel, thought Diana was the coolest person she had ever met. Everyone said we were perfect for each other. The first 2 years of our marriage were genuinely happy. We bought our house a modest 3-bedroom place with a big backyard and a porch swing. Diana would make breakfast on Sunday mornings while I mowed the lawn. We would spend evenings on that porch swing talking about our plans for the future. She wanted to start her own business someday. I wanted to support her in whatever she chose to do. About a year into our marriage, Diana decided to quit her job. She said she needed time to figure out what she really wanted to focus on developing herself. I supported her completely. I was making good money, and I figured she deserved the chance to explore her passions. I had no idea that decision would be the beginning of the end. It started slowly, so slowly that I barely noticed at first. About a year and a half before everything fell apart, Diana discovered TikTok. At first it seemed harmless. She would show me funny videos, and we would laugh together. Then she started making her own content. Short clips, mostly lifestyle stuff. I thought it was cute that she had found a hobby. But then she met Kristen. Kristen was a self-proclaimed content creator with about 50,000 followers. She was loud, dramatic, and constantly looking for the next viral moment. Through Kristen, Diana met Marcus, a guy who fancied himself a filmmaker, and Tanya, who was known in their circle for her elaborate pranks. They called themselves the Content Creator Squad, and suddenly Diana was spending more time with them than with me. The changes came gradually. Diana started filming me without asking. I would be eating dinner or watching television, and I would notice her phone pointed at me. When I asked her to stop, she would roll her eyes and say I was being too sensitive. She posted a video of me tripping over our dog, and it got thousands of views. She was thrilled. I felt embarrassed, but told myself it was not a big deal. Then came the first prank. She hid my car keys before an important meeting, then filmed my panicked search through the house. When I finally found them in the freezer, she burst out laughing and said it was just a harmless joke. The video went up that same day. I asked her to take it down. She refused. We argued, and somehow, by the end of it, I was the one apologizing for overreacting. That became the pattern. Diana would do something that upset me, and by the time the conversation was over, I would feel like I was the problem. She had a way of turning everything around. If I complained about her spending too much time with her friends, she would cry and accuse me of trying to control her. If I questioned her choices, she would say I did not support her dreams. I started walking on eggshells in my own home. The isolation happened so subtly that I did not recognize it until much later. Diana started making comments about my family. She said my mother was too critical, that my father did not respect her, that Rachel was jealous of our relationship. To keep the peace, I started calling them less visiting, less. When my best friend Tyler came over, Diana would be cold and distant. She told me Tyler had a bad influence on me, that he was trying to break us apart. I started making excuses to avoid seeing him too. Meanwhile, Diana was not working, but she was spending money like we had an unlimited supply. New camera equipment, ring lights, a professional microphone, designer clothes for her videos. When I tried to discuss our finances, she would get defensive and say I was trying to sabotage her career. I was the only one bringing in income, but I felt like I had no say in how it was spent. I found out she had bought a $3,000 camera without telling me. When I confronted her, she said it was an investment in our future. She promised her TikTok would start making money soon. It never did. 3 months before everything exploded, Diana and her friends pulled what they called their biggest prank yet. I had been on a business trip for 4 days. I was exhausted when I got home, looking forward to nothing more than a hot shower and my own bed. When I opened the front door, my heart stopped. The house looked like it had been ransacked. Furniture was overturned, drawers were pulled out, contents scattered everywhere. Picture frames lay broken on the floor. My first thought was that someone had broken in and that Diana might be hurt. I shouted her name. No answer. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. I was on the phone with the dispatcher describing the scene when Diana and her friends burst out of the bedroom. They were laughing hysterically. Marcus had his camera rolling. Kristen was doubled over, tears streaming down her face from laughing so hard. Diana ran up to me and threw her arms around my neck. "It is just a prank, baby," she said. "We got you so good." I stood there, phone still pressed to my ear, as the dispatcher asked if everything was all right. I had to explain that it was a false alarm, that my wife had been playing a joke. The officer, who showed up 20 minutes later, was not amused. He lectured Diana about wasting police resources, but she just smiled and promised it would not happen again. The video went viral, 200,000 views in the first week. Diana was ecstatic. She kept showing me the comments, the shares, the new followers. She could not understand why I was upset. When I told her she had gone too far, she accused me of being jealous of her success. But she did not stop. 2 months before the incident, I woke up one morning and made my usual cup of coffee. I had a big presentation that day, a potential client worth $500,000 in contracts. About an hour into the meeting, my stomach started cramping. I barely made it to the bathroom in time. I spent the next 2 hours in agony, unable to leave the restroom. The clients left. My boss was furious. I nearly lost my job. When I got home that evening, Diana was waiting with her phone out, recording my face as I walked through the door. She could not contain her laughter. "I put laxatives in your coffee this morning," she said. "Your face right now is priceless. This is going to get so many views." I did not yell. I did not throw things. I just stood there looking at this woman I had married and felt something inside me shift. I told her calmly and clearly that she had crossed a line. She rolled her eyes and told me I needed to learn how to take a joke. 6 weeks before everything ended, I came home to find my entire wardrobe destroyed. Every suit, every dress shirt, every pair of work pants had been cut into pieces. Diana said it was a fashion prank. She said she would buy me new clothes with her TikTok money. She never did. I spent over $2,000 replacing everything. 1 month before the final incident, Diana changed the passwords on all our joint bank accounts. I could not access my own money for 3 days. She called it a social experiment to see how I would react without access to finances. I had to borrow $200 from Tyler just to put gas in my car and buy groceries. When she finally gave me the passwords back, she acted like she had done me a favor. That was when Tyler finally got through to me. We were sitting in his living room and he looked me straight in the eye. "Anderson," he said, "this is not normal. What she is doing to you is abuse. I know you do not want to hear that, but it is the truth." I wanted to argue. I wanted to defend Diana, to explain that she just got carried away sometimes. But the words would not come. Tyler pulled out his phone and showed me articles about emotional abuse, about gaslighting, about the ways abusers isolate their victims. I read them with a sinking feeling in my stomach. I called my sister Rachel that night. She started crying almost immediately. "I have been so worried about you," she said. "Diana told us you did not want to see us anymore. She said we made you uncomfortable. I knew something was wrong, but I did not know how to reach you." The anger I felt in that moment was not at Rachel or my parents. It was at myself for being so blind, and at Diana for manipulating everyone I loved. I started making plans, quietly, carefully. I documented everything, every prank, every cruel comment, every financial decision she made without my consent. I saved screenshots of her videos, her text messages to her friends, her purchases on our credit cards. I opened a separate bank account and started putting money aside. I researched divorce lawyers in Austin and found Jennifer Hayes a woman with a reputation for handling difficult cases. I met with her secretly during my lunch breaks. She reviewed my evidence and told me I had a strong case. But despite everything, the part of me still hoped Diana would change. Part of me still loved the woman I had married, even though I was no longer sure that woman existed. I was supposed to be in Denver for 3 days, a conference for work, the kind of thing I had done dozens of times before. But the final session got canceled, and I managed to catch an earlier flight home. I did not tell Diana because I wanted to surprise her. Maybe bring home some flowers, cook her favorite dinner, try to reconnect. Even after everything, I was still trying to save my marriage. My flight was delayed, so I did not get home until around 11 at night. As I turned onto our street, I noticed several cars parked in front of our house. I recognized Kristen's SUV and Marcus's beat-up sedan. My stomach tightened. Diana had not mentioned anything about having people over. I parked on the street and walked up to the front door. I could hear music and laughter from inside. I put my key in the lock and turned it. Nothing happened. I tried again. The key would not work. Diana had changed the locks. I stood there for a moment, trying to process what was happening. Then I rang the doorbell. No response. I knocked. Nothing. I could see shadows moving behind the curtains, could hear the noise inside continuing as if no one had noticed. I pulled out my phone and called Diana. It rang and rang before going to voicemail. I walked around to the back of the house, my pulse quickening. Through the sliding glass door, I could see them. Diana, Kristen, Marcus, Tanya, a few others I did not recognize. They were drinking wine, laughing completely at ease. I knocked on the glass door. Diana looked up. Our eyes met. And then she smiled. Not a warm smile, not an apologetic smile. A smile I had never seen before, cold and calculating. She reached for her phone. I watched through the glass as she dialed. Even from outside, I could hear her voice high-pitched and trembling with fake fear. Hello. There is a man trying to break into my house. I am scared. Please send help immediately. I do not know who he is. Please hurry. I could not move. I could not speak. I just stood there watching my wife report me as an intruder in my own home, while her friends pointed their cameras at me through the window. The police arrived in 7 minutes. 2 squad cars' lights flashing, lighting up the whole neighborhood. I had walked back to the front yard, by then trying to figure out what to do. When the officers jumped out with their hands on their weapons, I raised my arms immediately. Get on the ground, one of them shouted. Get on the ground now. I tried to explain. I said this was my house, that I lived there, that my wife was inside. But they were not taking any chances. A woman had called 911, claiming there was an intruder. They did their job. I lay face down on my own lawn, while an officer pressed his knee into my back and cuffed my hands behind me. The grass was wet with dew. A sprinkler head dug into my ribs. I could see my neighbors coming out of their houses watching. Mrs. Patterson from next door had her hand over her mouth. The front door opened and Diana walked out. She was holding her phone, recording everything. Behind her came Kristen and Marcus and Tanya, all of them with their cameras out, all of them laughing. It is just a prank, officers, Diana said cheerfully. That is my husband. We were just making a video. The officer standing over me, a man whose badge said Rodriguez, did not laugh. His face was stone. Ma'am, he said, do you understand that filing a false police report is a crime? This is not a joke. This is a serious offense. Diana waved her hand dismissively. Relax, it is for TikTok. We will blur your faces. It is going to go viral. You will be famous. I lay there still cuffed and looked up at the woman I had married. She was grinning at her phone screen, checking how the footage looked. She was not even looking at me. I was nothing to her, not her husband, not even a person, just content. Something inside me went quiet, not angry, not sad, just quiet, clear. I knew exactly what I had to do. Officer Rodriguez helped me to my feet and removed the handcuffs. He handed me his card and explained in a low voice how I could file charges for the false report. I thanked him and put the card in my pocket. Diana tried to hug me, laughing, saying she was sorry if I got scared, but the footage was amazing. I stepped back from her and walked to my car without a word. I drove to Tyler's house and slept on his couch. I did not sleep much. I spent most of the night writing an email to Jennifer Hayes, my lawyer, detailing everything that had happened. At 6 in the morning, I drove to the police station. Officer Rodriguez was there. He remembered me from the night before. He helped me fill out the paperwork to press charges against Diana for filing a false police report. I provided all the evidence I had gathered over the past months. He looked through it with growing disbelief. "She has done this before," he said. "Multiple times." "Yes, sir," I replied, but last night was the last time. By 8 that morning, I was sitting in Jennifer Hayes' office. She had the divorce papers ready. We had been preparing them for weeks just in case. I signed every page without hesitation. At 11 in the morning, I went back to my house. A process server accompanied me. Diana opened the door in her pajamas, her hair messy, her eyes puffy. She had probably been up late editing her video. The process server handed her the envelope. Diana's face went from confused to annoyed to horrified as she read the contents. I spoke one sentence to her, the only words I would ever say to her again. "You wanted content. Now you have it." Then I turned around and walked away. The weeks that followed were not easy. I would be lying if I said I walked away feeling triumphant and free. The truth is, I grieved. I grieved for the marriage I thought I had, for the woman I thought I knew, for the future I thought we would share. Some nights I would lie awake and wonder if there was something I could have done differently. If I had been more attentive, more supportive, more patient, would things have turned out differently? My therapist helped me understand that those thoughts were normal, but not accurate. What Diana did was not a response to anything I failed to provide. It was a pattern of behavior that had nothing to do with my worth as a husband or a person. I was the victim of emotional abuse, and accepting that fact was the first step toward healing. The legal process moved faster than I expected. Diana was charged with filing a false police report, a Class B misdemeanor in Texas. She was fined $5,000 and sentenced to 200 hours of community service. Her TikTok account was permanently banned after multiple users reported her for harassment and dangerous content. The video of my arrest never went viral. Instead, it became evidence in a court case. The divorce was finalized in 4 months. Diana tried to claim half of everything, but the evidence I had collected worked in my favor. The judge saw the pattern of financial abuse, the reckless spending, the emotional manipulation. I kept the house. Diana kept her ring lights and camera equipment. Her friends disappeared the moment she could no longer provide them with content. I reconnected with my family first. My mother cried when I called her. My father just said, "Welcome back, son." Rachel drove 4 hours to spend a weekend with me, and we stayed up late talking like we used to when we were kids. I had forgotten how much I missed them. Tyler became an even closer friend than before. He never said "I told you so," even though he had every right to. He just showed up with pizza and bad movies whenever I needed company. That is what real friendship looks like. I started taking care of myself in ways I had neglected during my marriage. I joined a gym and found that physical exercise helped quiet the noise in my head. I started cooking real meals instead of eating takeout. I read books again. I went for long walks in the evenings, rediscovering my own neighborhood. About 6 months after the divorce, I joined a support group for men who had experienced emotional abuse in their relationships. I was nervous at first, worried about what people would think. But the men in that room understood. They had been through similar experiences, and they were rebuilding their lives just like I was. I started a blog to share my story, hoping it might help someone else recognize the signs I had missed. A year after that night on my lawn, I stood in my kitchen making breakfast on a Sunday morning. The house was quiet. The sun was streaming through the windows, and I realized that I felt something I had not felt in years: peace. I do not hate Diana. Hate takes too much energy, and I refuse to give her any more of mine. I hope she finds whatever she is looking for. I hope she learns that validation from strangers on the internet will never fill the emptiness inside her. But that is her journey, not mine. My journey is about rebuilding, about rediscovering who I am outside of that toxic relationship, about learning to set boundaries and recognize red flags, about understanding that walking away from something harmful is not weakness. It is the bravest thing you can do. I am open to love again, someday, when the right person comes along, but I am not rushing. I spent too many years trying to make someone else happy at the expense of my own well-being. Now I am learning that the most important relationship I will ever have is the one with myself. That night on my lawn, I lost my marriage, but I found something more valuable. I found my self-respect. I found my voice. I found the strength to say, enough is enough. If you are watching this and you recognize parts of your own story and mine, I want you to know something. You are not alone. You are not crazy, and you are not trapped. There is a way out even when it feels impossible. The first step is admitting that what you are experiencing is not love. Real love does not humiliate you. Real love does not isolate you. Real love does not turn your pain into entertainment. You deserve better. I promise you that. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved because they were hurting you? What gave you the strength to leave? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story touched you, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and reach more people who might need to hear these words. Subscribe if you have not already, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. And if you know someone who is going through something similar, please share this video with them. Sometimes knowing that someone else understands can make all the difference. Thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for listening. I hope wherever you are, whatever you are going through, you remember that you are worthy of respect, of kindness, of love that builds you up instead of tearing you down. Take care of yourselves. I will see you in the next one.